Hi, everyone. So excited to be here again with Beverly Glazer. Uh, Looking forward to interesting comments, thoughts, and suggestions that you could offer through chat. Makes us far more relevant and can provide a lot of quality takeaways. And today's word of the day is worries and or worry, either way, depending on how you use it. And again, something that everybody deals with, but everybody can deal with it a little differently to make it more positive as opposed to negative. So, Beverly, why don't you reintroduce yourself and first words on worry?
Well, the first words on worry. First of all, like I said to you, Dawn, when there were all these technology glitches, I technology does create anxiety, no question, but I didn't worry. I didn't worry because I knew you were capable and I knew you could handle it. And this is the thing with worry. When we get caught up in our own thoughts, the first belief is, oh no, I can't handle it. What's going to happen? And you're always going to go to the very, very farthest and worst case scenario. So, this is it. We're talking about worry. There's a big difference between worry and anxiety. Anxiety can lift you and bring you like right over the top. But worry is something that all of us share. When we're concerned about something, when we don't know something is going to happen, and it just gives us that little bit of anxiety, and it's the way of controlling it. And by the way, we're hardwired to be concerned and to worry. So um, we can't go over the top. We have to control it. But it goes right back to, of course, caveman. What's going to happen? And cave women. What's going to happen? What bear is going to eat me? What animal is going to eat me? What's the threat? So we're hardwired to keep checking, to keep looking, to wait for whatever is going to happen. But we have to be able to control our squirrely brains and keep it literally into control and not let it go farther and farther and farther. And if you don't know who I am, I'm Beverly Glazer, and I help successful women in all walks of life to be even more successful, find purpose and passion throughout their lives. And you can always reach me on reinventimpossible.com. And I love to talk to everybody, literally, and you can always get 15 minutes for conversation to put you right on track. So, by the way, no pitch. I hate that. So it's really all about helping. And what I'm thinking, Dawn, as I was just thinking about the show, one of the lead magnets that I put out ages ago is the Worry Less workshop, the workbook. So it's worry less, but it's worry less. And this is, I don't even know where that that is anymore, but it's out there in the universe. Probably if you check Beverly Glazer or whatever, worry less workbook. It's really easy breezy. Of course, it's a free download, but what it is first of all, don't take this anxiety with you all the time. um, when people worry, you pass it on. You pass it on to other people. People feel that energy. And for a lot of successful women that happen to be extremely worried about a lot of things because they have many, many hats, the first thing they do is to say, I can handle it. And to put it really into practice, what you do is you don't have this to do list with a million to dos, because you take a look at that to do list and, like, how on earth am I going to get over that? Right? So you have to simplify your worries. You can't just worry over everything. And so the first thing you have to do is you're the one that has the control. What is the priority here? And what is the worry going to do for me? Is it going to make me more worried? are you going to be saying, uh-oh, I know I had a terrible evaluation and I know I'm going to be losing my job. Did you actually lose your job? No. Well, why are you worrying about something that isn't happening, may never happen? And guess what? The answer to that is, oh, but I know, Beverly. You do. Okay. Well, I've been, as they say, reading people for over 30 years. And I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know. Nobody really knows. But what we're already doing is we are preparing for some disaster that hasn't happened yet, but just in case. So just go back to cave people again. I didn't say caveman, cave people. We're right back there where our reptile brain, the amygdala back there, is saying, fight or flight. Okay. Something's going to happen. I'm ready for a fight or I'm going to run away. And that's what worry is. What do I do? What do I do now? So, Dawn, you go. Your turn, my friend.
I was so enjoying what you were saying. Didn't even worry about it. But I like that worryless subject title because what's been calculated is 90% of what you worry about never will happen. The 10% that does happen, you had no idea or control over. And worrying can put you into an anxious state, which is very challenging and unhealthy. And I guess it depends on what stage you worry. Do you worry about something that is yet to show up? Do you worry about something that just happened? You could have got a big bill in the mail or something, and now you're worried about how do I take care of this? A lot of worry is based on conflict. You know, you're in between something, in between people. You worry about what people are going to think. You worry about what could happen to you, and you lose the present. You end up focusing on the past, maybe because you can maybe match it up and say, well, this is what happened when this happened. So I guess this is what's going to happen now. And you can actually draw that to you. If you believe enough in something happening, eventually it happens. And then you can say, see, I was right. And it rewards the worry as if to say you want to be a prognosticator. You know, what's the value in guessing something bad right when you can just work on saying, okay, how do I minimize this impact? How do I absorb it? How do I deal with it? And if it's beyond your control, you just have to let it go. You know, if it's something you can benefit from, then you can write it off as a learning experience and say, this is why I got into this jam. This is why I'm not going to do that again. And you can find a silver lining. And the main thing is the sun will still come up tomorrow, no matter what happens, whatever you do. And sometimes time is your friend because you worry about something, you find out in time it took care of itself without any involvement.
Yes.
Right? Or you decide, hey, I'll do a little bit, and a little bit moved you closer. I think the worst thing about worry is inaction. When you're frozen and you can't move and you can't go forward, you're stuck. And being stuck is not a good place to be, no matter what the reason. But we've got a couple of our friends here today.
Yes. Yes.
Carrie said, how did a donut propose to his girlfriend? With a sweet ring. Well, that's like a donut. Kelly's here. Kelly's a good friend of our group, and always love seeing Kelly. And Kelly will be here Thursday with Dave Snell. So looking forward to that, Kelly. And also, Kelly comes back with worry is the greatest thief of joy. You're so right, because if you're worried about something, you're not enjoying anything at the time, right?
Yes.
You're in that state. And then all of a sudden, you solicit sympathy from other people. Now they feel bad for you, and maybe they feel bad with you, and maybe they feel bad after they left you. And pretty soon, you're not going to have a lot of friends if you don't have some resolution that they can help you with. It's different if you say, well, I need to do this, but I'm caught between this and that. What can you share with me? That's positive. If all you are is a downer all the time, you know, pretty soon you're going to attract negative situations, negative people, and people are going to avoid you. So, it's a process, but everybody's had enough to worry about. And what does it really do for you? At a certain point, in how long do you worry? So there's a limit to everything. There's an allowance you give yourself. And we've got Maria Frigo. Thank
Hey,
you for
Maria.
being. Do you know Maria Beverly?
No, no. Welcome, Maria.
Well, Beverly, what's your new thoughts now that we've had these comments and
I'm
summary?
going back to Kelly. Yes, I'm going right back to Kelly. It's the thief of joy for sure. Because if you're worrying, you're not enjoying the present. You're worrying about the future. And like I said, I don't have a crystal ball. Do you have a crystal ball? It's all about what is going on in our squirrely brains. And what is going on, right? It's negativity. It's not productive. It's not moving you forward. You're stuck. And when you say it's a thief of joy, of course, there are all kinds of good things that are going on. And believe me, you're going to miss it. And back to that email lead magnet, which is an ebook pretty well, all about carrying it with you. You end up not being able to sleep because of worry. Think of what that does to you. You're worrying about something that you cannot fix, whatever it is, and it's on your mind and it keeps you up at night. And then what does this do to the next day? You carry it. And you don't just carry it into your day to day, you carry it into your business, you carry it into the family, you carry it into your life. You carry it all the time, and there's something that you can do which is absolutely nothing. So if that something is a nothing, you have to let it go. And there's a little trick when you said put a time on that, Don. A lot of people have learned from past experience about worry. The past experience comes often from your parents and or people that you've just kind of admired, and you realize that if they worry, and I've heard this before, really terrific people that say, I'm just a worrier. In other words, they own it. I'm just a worrier. And I learned that from my dad. I'm thinking of one particular person. Well, first of all, it's not genetic, but yes, you can learn to worry and you could pass that on. And so, what I'm going with is you can also get used to that anxiety that you carry. And when you're used to, like this particular client, when you're used to that anxiety, and she's actually said, when I don't worry, I know something will go wrong. Because when I'm worrying, I make sure that this is right, and this is right, and this is right, and this is right, and this is right. And you know what? She's on her game. But the craziness that she must give her team with her work, you pass that on. Now, you can be concerned. Concerned is what we're talking about. You can make sure that all the ducks are still in a row without creating such anxiety with everybody else that you're over here and you're over there and you're doing everything else, and everybody is scurrying around like a chicken without a head. So what you have to do is you say, you're passing it on. Like she said, her father passed it on. Does she want to pass this on to her kids? Or that you're driving everybody crazy? What it does is it prevents you. Worrying actually prevents you from having people come to you with their problems, because they'll immediately feel that you are going to react crazy. Something's going to happen, and they can't tell you. You're going to just worry about it, or you're going to fix it, or you're just going to go kind of over the top. So what it does for you on so many different levels is, guess what? Nada. So what you do when you have to go to sleep and you were worried is say to yourself, I am concerned. This is something that is bothering me right now. Of course, you don't just let it go. But what can I do right now at midnight about this problem? Is it anything? Well, the thing I can do is perhaps relax enough to be able to breathe and go to sleep so I can handle it in the morning when I am capable of handling it. And you see things in a different light the next day. You really do. And so what's bothering you today may shift a little in your perception. It can shift probably the next day, or when you think about it a little differently, or when you talk about it with someone else, or when you have a different perception. But when you just continue that tunnel vision of worry, 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 all you're doing is building anxiety, driving yourself crazy, driving everyone else crazy. And as Kelly said, it's the thief of your joy. You're missing out. You're missing out on the life that's going around you, and you're also missing out on thinking creatively because all you're thinking of is what horrible thing is going to happen in the future, which you don't know in the first place. So, are we worried? No. Are we concerned? Absolutely. Okay. Like I was concerned about getting online with all these Restream, which does things all the time, and technology. Yeah, it can be a concern, but what can you do? Worry about it? No, you can prepare. You can do the best you can, but you can't worry about it. There's nothing you could do. The Restream gods will get you or not. Right, Don?
Absolutely. And I did look Mara up, and I think I've seen Mara before, and she is a top 100 franchise influencer for 2023, social
Yeah.
engineering specialist. And she's
Awesome.
from Milan, Italy. And she does have a comment saying, Beverly, I love your eyeglasses and your smile.
Thank
So,
you. Thank you. Yes, those are Italian.
well,
You got
Milan
her.
is the center of fashion, so that
Oh,
only
yeah.
makes sense. Well, glad to have you with us, Mara. And I think to dovetail off of what Beverly said, you can take a little bit of action towards something that shows movement, but a lot of times you have to almost feel like you're jumping off a cliff and you'll grow wings
Yeah.
before you hit the ground. And sometimes just entering the situation and moving forward gives you confidence, gives you opportunity. It's again doing nothing and it compounds. And pretty soon you got a loop in your head that keeps telling you, oh, this is going to be bad. This is going to be bad. And what you expect and anticipate usually gets realized. I mean, no different if someone says that's the greatest restaurant you'll ever go to, and you go in there thinking that, and you're looking for reasons to justify it. It's the same thing on the negative side. Oh, that's going to be hard. That's going to be painful. That's going to be expensive. And pretty soon, just knowing what could be becomes your new reality. And then the key is what good does it do? If you're worried for 5 minutes and you come back 5 minutes later and you're the same boat you were 5 minutes ago, why didn't you just quit at 5 minutes? How long would you keep your hand on a hot stove? And that just boils inside of you. And pretty soon it restricts you because, well, I'm not going to go there, or the weather's
Mhm.
too bad, and I don't like ice. And if I drive on ice, it's going to scare me. And sometimes it's true. I mean, you shouldn't
Mhm.
just confront everything that you don't like, but there's sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. If someone's in danger, you'll do things you would never think of doing if you didn't have to. And what do they say? Necessity is the mother of invention. Sometimes you're forced to do things, and there are times you surprise yourself. You say, "Wow, I didn't think I had it in me. I didn't know I could do this, and I was so worried about it." And practice does make perfect. And a lot of times, if you're dealing with things like trauma or, just things that you're worried about, you tend to avoid them. And by avoiding them, they only get bigger. And they usually say when you have a phobia, the best way to deal with it is to slowly introduce yourself to it. So if you're afraid of flying, maybe it's just get on an airplane and get off, get get to an airport. So, you feel more empowered when you're actually addressing something. And you can't let something run your life or change your life for the worse, because the effect you have on yourself is probably worse than the effect the situation would bring out in you. And that's part of growing up. How many things did you worry about? And you said, boy, that was just the opposite of what it worked out. And sometimes you can say to yourself, maybe you're wrong. Maybe it's not going to be like that. And maybe there is hope and opportunity. So, dealing with all the people you deal with. Oh, here's a comment. Don't want to miss it. Mara says,
Yeah.
Beverly, do you think we should learn to understand the difference between fear and worries? That's interesting because me and Beverly had this conversation before starting, and I thought the word was fear, and it does kind of align with worry. What's your thoughts, Beverly?
First of all, thank you so much, Mara, for this question, because it's true. When we go right back, we are hardwired to expect the worst. Okay, so let's equate it to like caveman, all right, or look at the bear, right? When the bear is in your face, fear. Okay, that's the fight or flight. You know that there's something going to happen and you're there and you better run. Okay. If you are thinking about the bear coming and there is no bear and you keep worrying about it, but there's other things to do, you can be concerned that maybe you're in an area where there are bears. But if you're putting all your energy into your worry, that's the difference. Okay. So the worry isn't serving any purpose. If you're preparing that if a bear is going to come, I can manage it. Maybe I have my bear spray, whatever it is to manage bears. I really have no experience in that, trust me. But whatever you're doing, when you're doing something, you're handling it. When you're just worrying about something, what are you doing? Okay. You're driving yourself crazy. And one of the techniques, I hope I answered that for you, Mara, the fear is legitimate. Okay. The worry is a maybe. And so what you do is you prepare, you do the best you can, but you can't worry continuously about something that may not happen. And I'm going to just go on a sidebar for a while. Women are more worriers than men are. Okay. And there's a reason for that, because women wear many roles and we have many hats. So we have to, raise our children. We know what our schedules are. We know that the dangers that can happen, et cetera, et cetera. Same in business. If you're handling the business and you're handling whatever you have to do, there's another hat. Whatever you're handling can add to more anxiety. And so what happens is when you have no control, particularly on what's going to happen to your children, okay, I'm using that as a perfect example, a mother is going to worry, right? Like, what is happening? And so when you don't have the control, now think about all the monitors we have and, all the GPSs we put our kids on with our phones, et cetera, et cetera. We've got so many ways of managing that. And quite frankly, we've managed our children back in the day without all this technology. And mothers still worry, and mothers will still worry regardless of all the technology around, because of course it's innate, right? We want the good to happen, but we also have to have the trust. And I'm just going to give a story, which I always talk about with worry, because it was like, oh my goodness, what are my friends going to say? Right. This was really back in the day. My kids were small. One of my daughters was on the school bus. And as Dawn was talking about, the roads here and the roads down there in Colorado can get pretty messy in the winter. And here my child was on the school bus, and it was late, and it was dark standard time. Pretty soon it's going to be 4 o'clock and it's going to be black. Okay. And this is like perfect conditions to worry when your child is supposed to be coming home earlier. And so one mother calls another. Did you hear from the school? Did you hear from this? Did you hear from that? And the more the telephone tag keeps on going, the more worried and crazy everybody becomes, right? And so what I did was I contacted the school, and they said, no, there's problems on the bus, but don't worry, they're just late, et cetera, no problem. They probably got umpteen different calls, but people like to call people also and just talk about, is your child been dropped off, et cetera, et cetera. Well, one little child, my daughter and her friend, were dropped off last. And that friend was said to my daughter, she said, oh my goodness, my mother is going to be so worried. And my daughter said, my mother won't. My mother will be concerned. She's not worried. And when I heard that, I said, oh my goodness, what kind of mother has she made me out to be? Okay. The point is, it's almost like a mother is supposed to worry for your kids. The first thing she did when she got into the door was say, Mom, were you worried? Okay. And I said, no, I wasn't worried. It was like, she said, I knew it. And it's like, oh my goodness. And this is the thing, right? There's an expectation that if you're a woman and you're a mom, you're supposed to worry. Okay. And this kind of is passed on generationally. You know, your grandmother was a worrier, your mother was a worrier. It's like, you're a worrier. Well, you have to start stopping the madness now. If you're a capable person, and there's times when you do have to worry, right? But there's worry and there's worry, okay? And there's worry and concern. And big worries go right into anxiety. And once it gets into anxiety, you may need really help for that, because that takes part in your physical self, and not only in your mental. There's all kinds of things. You can get problems with your back, your sides, all kinds of other stuff. So yeah, big difference. But be concerned, be proactive, take control. And we are capable of doing that. We really are. It starts from within. Okay. So when you stay strong, yeah, you can be concerned, but give yourself time and space. If you're worried, do something about it. Okay. Done.
That's great insights, and brings to mind that being aware is so important. Not being worried about it, but saying, "Oh, it's going to snow later today. I should be ready for it, right? I should wear a heavier coat. I should be aware." Not, I'm worried that I'm going to get frostbite, or I'm worried something's going to happen, because there's realistic concern, and there's real concern. You
Mhm.
know, I mean, realistic and real, I guess, are the same thing, but uh, in a different way. But I think the beauty of it is it's in the back of your mind. You're walking in a park at night. It's nothing to worry about, but it's something to be aware of. That
Yeah.
if this happens or that happens, you hear a strange noise, then it might convert to worry. So there's
Mhm.
different stages, and there's also people who worry for the right reasons. I know my grandparents helped raise me, and my grandmother, no matter how warm it was, she'd always make me put a sweater on. It could be 90 degrees, take a sweater. And a lot of times I do it because she wanted me to, and then as soon as I could find a bush around the house, I put it in there and pick it up before I went back home. But I knew she was concerned, and if I didn't take that sweater, I knew she might have been worried the whole time, but it was out of love, not out of fear. It was out of wanting me to be safer, be better, And there's a difference, and I think semantics kind of addresses that. You know, is it a real worry? Is it an imaginary worry? Or are you just geared to worry, right? Once
Yeah.
one worry went away, did another worry replace it? And if that's the case, it's not what you're worried about. It's just your gravitation to being a worrier, and
Mhm.
that doesn't serve you well. Uh, let me see. Here's Mara comes back with hope for the best and be prepared for the worst. And the
True.
other thing is why not deal with it when it shows up, right? You wouldn't open a door to someone who's 10 minutes away from being there, you know, and sometimes it never shows up and it surprises you. You walk into a
Mhm.
meeting and you think, oh, I'm in for it. They must have found out I didn't do my work last week or I made a mistake. And you're getting all excited. No one even brings it up. Nobody was aware of it but you. And sometimes you blurt things out that never had to be said. And now once they're said, they're out there and
Mhm.
people will start addressing it. So I think it's timing, you know, be in the now. The past is over, the future is yet to come, but you have control over the present and a little bit of control over the future. You know, it's not what happens to you, but how you deal with what happens to you. And something's always going to happen to somebody at a certain time or place, and be grateful for when it doesn't happen. Right? If you think one day I'm not gonna be here, well, that's true, but you got a lot of days hopefully before that. Why
Mhm.
not take
Mhm.
that fear and make it into joy for what you do have when you have it and use it up before you lose it? And I think that lends itself to having a better life balance and a better appreciation. I mean, how do you get out of bed every day? Do you get out of bed excited? Can't wait to get started? So many wonderful things ahead of you? Or you're like trying to put the covers over your head and I don't want to face it. I don't want to deal with it. There, you know, there's that saying, you can run, but you can't hide. And I think life comes at you whether you want it or not. Here's another Mara thought. If there is a solution, it is not a problem, so no
Right.
worries. If there is no solution, is no problem. It's a fact, so why worry? And
Exactly.
and I think that's important. Mad Magazine was all about "What Me Worry." That was Alfred
Yeah.
E. Newman, if you
Yeah.
don't know. And it used to be something I kinda grew up with. Carl's here, another dear friend and colleague. Carl has his franchise show. Not I'm sorry,
Oh.
has I'm thinking of Harvey. Uh, Carl has his funding show on Tuesday and his community redevelopment show on Thursday, which is an hour before my show here.
Very.
And really packed full of great value. And Carl's a wonderful person, just like Beverly, in that
Thank
they
you.
can solve some of your worries if you allow them to, if you bring them in. And that's the beauty of interaction and reaching out after the show. Like
Mhm.
Beverly mentions, if you need 15 minutes to go over something that's relevant, it's a good
Absolutely.
thing. Carl's in the business of helping people raise capital, and raising money and having money is a key worry for most people, especially if you're in
Mhm.
business. You've got a great opportunity, can't fund it, or you've had a slippery quarter or year and you need to kind
Mhm.
of upgrade it. And that's where I think worry can make a difference is getting consultation. You know, when someone sees something and reads something, it becomes their new reality. And that's why Google and YouTube are so cool. You know, if you think you got a medical issue, look it up and you'll find out it's probably pretty common. It's probably not fatal or serious because your mind starts running. Oh, I got this, so it must mean this. And then boom, 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 and you're off and running. Carl says, um, I take the position of not worrying about things I cannot control or at least influence. Good morning, Beverly.
Mhm.
I love
Exactly. Yay.
to see you, Carl. And I think those are little things you learn along the way. Is it doesn't serve you. I was actually listening to a Audible yesterday, and somebody was saying how they feared public speaking when they first got
Mhm.
it. And the closer they got to the stage, the more challenging it was. And what they did is decide to make themselves an appointment later on. It says in an hour from now we'll deal with this. Right now I got a speech to make. So it's not dismissing it. It just says right now is not the time to have it come into my thoughts, and it'll project and reflect. And that's not very good for you, because what you send out is usually what you receive.
Mm-hmm.
And you just, as you get older, you learn, I've been through worse. You always can come up with that. Whatever it is, I've been through worse and I got through that, and I'll get through this. And time is on my side if I give it the time. But if you're forcing and squeezing and worrying, it doesn't help you. And at that point, you got to ask yourself, am I my own best friend now, or my worst
Mm-hmm.
enemy? Am I telling myself things that I wouldn't ever tell anybody else about themselves? And
True.
what good is that doing? I'm just bullying myself. And at the same time, you wake up one day feeling like $1,000,000, and you can't understand how this doesn't happen every day. And the next day you feel not so good, and you wonder, how did this happen? And it's you. It's your attitude, it's your belief system, it's your values that will get you through. Because at a certain point you say, yeah, it's not right to do this. It's not good
Mm-hmm.
for anybody. So why am I doing this? Because at the end of the day, you're going to have to clean it up. It's going to happen again, and you're going to base a lot of history on it. I know Jason's here. Um, Thank you, Jason, for being here. Mara, who is prodigious today, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Probably we as women tend to have higher expectation on everything. Our biggest mistake. Why don't you talk to that, Beverly?
Yeah, I'd love to talk to that. I think you're right, Mara. It's we think a lot. Okay, we have a lot of little ducks to put into place, and that's also a matter of control too. How do we handle everything? We have to do this and this and this and all this kind of stuff. The more we have to do, the more we put on our plate. And we have to understand that we have to let go a lot of things. And we cannot be perfect in everything. We have to allow ourselves to be human and to say, I need help here, or I can't do this myself, and to designate. And you would be surprised when you have young children, they all want to help. But what happens with our higher expectancy, as you said, Mara, they will stop helping if you're going to be doing it better than they are. Or they can see that you don't really need help because everything you do, you're going to complain about or clean up afterwards, et cetera, et cetera. So we have to let go our own our perception of what things should look like, and allow everybody to kind of help in their ability. And you have to also realize that some people are better helpers than others, and perhaps they are no help, but you can not have to do everything yourself. And this can be in the workplace, this could be everywhere you are. You don't have to do everything. And you can also tell people ahead of time your expectations of them, because not only do they want to help, sometimes people don't know what to do. It's like, well, why didn't you tell me? I would have done it. And rather than you say, hey, I just came in the door and all these shoes are in this one place. And how many times do I have to say, put your shoes in one place? Once you start talking in terms of not demanding what you want, but how can you help me? Or how come your shoes are in there? Well, maybe there's no room to put all my shoes. Maybe they just have, maybe I just forgot. Okay, well, think again. So, in other words, instead of coming in with your demands, start asking questions, and ask questions positively. So that's what I mean by, oh my goodness, I'm going to walk in the door and all these kids and all this whole family. And now, from my work in my place, which is all fine and in control, I'm going to come home and I'm going to be bombarded with all kinds of things. And this is what you're thinking as you're driving into the garage. Okay. Can you imagine the vibes that you are sending? Okay. And immediately you're going to come in when they say, mommy, mommy, look at this, or blah, 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 whatever it is. It's like, don't stop it right now, or you're going to come in with this terrible negativity. Rather than telling them from the very beginning, when I come in, I just need 15 minutes alone. You're putting a boundary, okay? Or you're literally saying, and I've told some particular clients, and one I'm thinking of is doctor, don't come in, okay? She's handling her patients. She's doing remarkably with them. But as soon as she walks into her house, it's a blended family and it's an absolute zoo. And she says, I can't take it. Well, I said, well, don't take it until you want to go in and relax before you walk in that door. And she realized that. And so what she did, instead of rushing from her office to be there on time for the zoo that she was expecting to get and usually getting, because she was also creating it with screaming and yelling and carrying on. And so what happens is she walked in, she was calmer. As a matter of fact, her older daughter, who was 18, said, is there something wrong, Mom? And she says, no, not at all. She says, oh, I thought you're tired or something. Whatever it was no, I'm just calmer. Okay. Because what they're expecting is, oh my gosh, Mom's coming. And now, like, whatever happened, we're going to get, and guess what? They get it and they're going to react. So what you're worried about can be solved. I'm worried that when I walk in the door, I'm going to walk into that zoo. And guess what? You're creating the zoo, right? So if you change your behavior, other people change too. And if you worry about things that aren't going to happen or creating things that are happening because you're in charge of the mix, you're part of the problem, you don't realize it. If just what you're saying, Mara, you have the expectancy that something's going to go wrong. Much like you said, Dawn, I'm expecting I'm going to have an evaluation and I know it's going to go bad. And you're walking in expecting. And then you say, hey, they really liked what I did. And no, they didn't think that this was so bad. You were worrying for no reason. So don't put higher expectations. Don't start creating something that hasn't happened. And if it happens all the time, think about what you can do to change it. Worrying about the situation is not going to make it better. Okay. Handling the situation or just taking the time to figure out the situation. And that's what we're talking about when I'm thinking of this doctor who's overworked, thinking of all her clients that she has to, deal with, put them to rest. She's done a heck of a lot of work every day, coming back immediately to take care of this, not knowing what she's going to find, expecting it to be a disaster, and being exhausted and drained every night. Can't wait to go to work to do it again, to come back to that. Okay. So the hell that you're living in, stop. Okay. You can have the joy if you stop worrying and start taking the control of what you can control. And if you can't control it, figure out a way that, maybe someone else can. Get the advice. Do maybe less. You can always, as Kelly said, find the joy. But the worry takes the joy out of everything you do. Don't worry about it. Handle it. And you're capable. You're capable. And so there's so many things coming down. Dawn, what do you have to say? I see, Mara has another one that's wonderful, and Christine is here.
Yeah,
It's like wonderful, wonderful. What a
we're getting
fabulous.
comments are coming fast and furious, and I agree with you, Beverly. Is there are tools you can use to help you when you find yourself in that situation. You could use breathing techniques, right? To calm down. You could use meditation, yoga, exercise, read a good book. I guess the key is take your mind off of what's bothering you and replace it in a place that you're more comfortable, get back to it. You don't have, like how to eat an elephant one bite at a time.
Exactly.
Sometimes just chipping away and say, well, here's the area I know I can focus on and get some benefit, and then I'll address
Mhm.
the other area. And slowly you just take care of the issue in your own time. It's only when you're pressured by time and stress and people's desire to be perfect,
Yeah.
their desire to say, if it's not this, it's not good enough. Well, the best you can do is all you can do. And that's
Mhm.
what you need to do. And if you can get better, then do it over time. But Christine comes back with, I love the phrase paradox, the paradox of surrender to win. It's a reminder that sometimes we achieve our best results not by forcing things, but by letting go and working with the flow of life.
Yeah.
And that's so true,
Yeah.
Christine. Thank you so much for that comment. And then I'll move to Mara because she's got a pretty significant comment. The drama of control. I absolutely agree with you. The hardest part that I've learned in the years is to learn how to communicate, put something in
Mhm.
common with the other person, not talking. And that's so important because teamwork goes a long way. If you got the whole load to yourself, you feel oppressed, you feel like, wow, I've got to take care of this. But when someone says, hey, join me in putting things away or cleaning something up or just going somewhere, and that the company could make a difference. If you go somewhere you're kind of concerned about, take a friend with you. And that
Mhm.
might give you a little sense of security and a backup if you need it. And what's your thoughts? And usually you'll find a friend that doesn't have the same worry as you, and they'll start to
Mhm.
laugh. I wouldn't worry about that. That's never going to happen. Or if it does, we're strong, we're capable. And then actually, a lot of people that I've read say, ask yourself the worst thing that could possibly happen. And usually the
Mhm.
worst thing that could possibly happen isn't the
Yeah.
worst thing, right? So it's really about saying, nobody wants trouble. Nobody wants challenge. Everybody like a smooth road. That's not
Mhm.
possible. And, why not just say, I did better than I thought I would? I was expecting to get a failing mark. I got a D. Well, I didn't fail. I didn't get an A, but it's my first time in, and the next time I get a little bit better. Or the thing is,
Mhm.
some things you don't have to get better. I always make that example of golfers. Some people are the worst golfers, have the most fun. Some people are the best golfers, but because they're so competitive, it's misery. They only win when it's 100%, and they lose every time it isn't, and it's not important. The other big element is, remember when a big worry came along, that little worry disappeared,
Mhm.
right? Because now you got something significant. Like, I got a flat tire. Well, that's not a good thing, but it's easy to fix, and you'll get right back on the road. Versus they just repoed my car and I don't have a car to drive. And you'd love to have the flat tire at that point. So, when you say it could be worse and it has been worse and I'm still here, that's all that's important, because at the end of the day, you should feel some sense of pride that I didn't run from it. That's the worst thing, or hide from it, because it's always going to be waiting for you. So why not confront it? And you find out it was just a smoke screen. It looked bad, but when you got into it, it wasn't nearly as bad. And give yourself some encouragement that I can do more than I show myself to be when I have to be. I can
Mhm.
put things aside. I can be very strong in situations. So, and I think that's the beauty of having so many people relate to what we're talking about today, because we all deal with it. Everybody wakes up, especially if you challenge yourself, if you're a high performance achiever, you want
Mhm.
to take tougher questions. You want to take the tougher ski slope. Why? Because it forces you to fear a little bit. A little fear is a good thing. A lot of fear or worry is a bad thing, because there's something saying, I got to pay attention here. I'm in a situation I know I'm capable of, but I can't just take it for granted. Plus, you want to be a victor. You want to stand at the top of that summit and say, I got here. And it makes me feel I can get even places I didn't think. So once you achieve a victory, you're off to the next victory because it feels so good and you surprise yourself.
Mhm.
And that's what's so important. Um, I guess we covered that one too. So Beverly,
Yes, we did. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to go back to Carl because Carl is a money man and he was on, and I hope he still is. But um, if he's not, it doesn't matter. Carl's the go to when it comes to money. And if anybody has worries, money is a big instigator in that. And there are people that often say, it's okay, I can do it. Whatever it is, I can do it. So, and they're kind of hardwired to that, these super achievers. And other people say, oh my gosh, I don't know. And they'll use that as a worry to keep on going. And so, hey, Carl, you're still here. Great. Because I'm sure you see an awful lot of anxious people, Carl, because they have a dream and they want to invest. And how do they go about it? And I'm thinking of a client that said, you know, Bev, when I told her she's a visionary, she said, how could you call me a visionary? I thought visionaries just sit on a mountain and it comes to them. She said, I think I'm a risk taker. And I said, no, absolutely not. She says, how could you say that? She said, because, you know, when I bought my first house with my husband, she said, this was it. This was the house I wanted. And we bought that house. And he said, how could you do that? He was worrying. He says, how can we do that? We're not going to have any money. And she said, I don't care if at the end of the month we're stuck with $20. We're going to have this house, let me tell you. And she knew that whatever it is, she would make it work. And of course she did. She's a multi-billionaire many times over today. But she said, I'm a risk taker. And I said, no, you're a visionary. That's what a visionary is. They know that they are not going to fail. And when I mention failure to this woman, it hits her in her gut. There's all kinds of other things that, you know, that go along with the way we feel. But the bottom line is for her, no, there is no failure. I will make it work. I've made everything work. And I don't know if that's possible, seriously, but she's done a pretty darn good job of it with that mentality. But of course, this is a responsible person and she doesn't run her world like that. But what I'm talking about is here her husband was worrying, how are we going to get by? By the way, that's me. I would be that person. But she says, we will get by. We will. I don't care with $20. We're going to make this work. And that's an attitude that entrepreneurs have. And I see it all the time with people who are worrying about money. I'm thinking right now of someone who's very successful in real estate. And if anyone knows real estate, it's ups and downs all the time. And what happens is you still have to live and you're still spending money. And what happens afterwards is, oh, wow, I have this sale. It's a great sale. And then it falls through. So it's all these ups and downs. And when you're worrying and you're putting your heart and soul into that, rather than saying, you don't really have it until it's all signed, sealed, and delivered. By putting that mindset in it, okay, will give you control. By thinking of the future and already spending the money and then not having it happen, then you worry, what am I going to do? I lost that house. Okay. I'm going to have to find another one. You're going to start chasing. And that's where the joy comes out of the job, because before you start thinking it is, I'm a lousy real estate agent, I'm never going to get another house, why did that happen, blah 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 blah. So what we're talking about here is take the control. Nothing happens. Stay in the now. It is what it is. This is it. You had the opportunity to sell the house. Next, let's move on. Okay, so it's all about mindset. It's all about mindset. And so, money, when I'm thinking here, Carl, who's the master, what we're saying here is if you believe that you can by finding the right people, by working with people, by figuring it out, by getting strategies, by not worrying, by doing. And so I just had to say that because when Carl was there, it was like, yes, money and investments and dreaming and having a mission. It's all about expanding who you are, and you don't have to get that big house, and you definitely don't have to build a huge business. But what you have to do is stay on ground level, take care of yourself one day at a time, and don't have this vision that you're going to crash and burn or spend money that hasn't happened until it's landed in your bank account. That means it's yours. So you're stopping all that squirrely brain from already having that fabulous trip around the world because of what's going to happen, and it crashes. Okay. So just stay in control. No worries. It is what it is. Another day, the sun will rise tomorrow.
Well, that's great, Beverly. And we've got some more comments. Mara said, Beverly, you're amazing. And thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing all those great reminders. And when Carol comes
Thanks for being here.
back, doing anything you have not done before requires a vision and will represent some degree of risk that you may not attain the new accomplishment. Risk taking comes with breathing. Failure is not failure until you quit. So right, Carl. And I think to what Beverly said, you got to look at your batting average, right? Babe Ruth was the home run king, but he was also the strikeout king, right? And if you're batting, if you get 3 hits out of 10 at bats, you're going to make 30, 40 million a year right now. So
Mhm.
it's, it's really appreciate the wins. Don't give the losses any more credit than they deserve. And, learning is really learning. Losing is kind of learning from that.
Mhm.
Again, to Carl's point, if you stay in the game, if
Yeah.
something makes you quit your game because of a loss or a fear, you've just backed yourself up. Why give up something that you're passionate about because maybe the reviews didn't come in so well?
Yeah.
And whose voice or opinion do you value most? Do you got an inner sense to say, I know I'm right? I'm not there yet. I'll get there, but I know this is what I need to do. And that's where passion comes in. That's where belief and vision comes in, and faith and hope. You got to gather all these friends around you, like hope and vision and passion and people. You got to build your team up if you feel deficient. And usually that's when you start to worry is I'm not good enough. I don't have enough. What are people going to
Yeah.
think? Well, it's not about that unless you allow that to be the judge for what you're doing. And I think when you just say to yourself, I'm just glad to be me, I wouldn't trade myself with anybody out there. That's when you start picking up points. And you know what? It is your music people hear and not always your words.
Mhm.
When you come into a room confident and excited and enthusiastic, the room changes with you. And if you come in like a wet noodle and everything is like a challenge, people start to see that. Carrie, I will remember this because of all the loss of I still attempting to get going. This Thursday, I have a job fair at the local post office. Hopefully,
Yeah. Great.
and that's great, Carrie, because
Great.
anything on the calendar that gives you hope for the future. And all it takes is one situation. It turns everything around. All of a sudden, someone offers you a position, or all
Mhm.
of a sudden, you got something to look forward to. And that's
Mhm.
the key, creating your own opportunities. Carrie says, I'm so glad to be me. I know that I'm only one to be me with my silly self. And that's
Yeah.
you
Awesome.
give yourself your own pat on the back. So
Uh-huh.
it's been a fabulous conversation today. We're already at 59 minutes. It's so fast when you get some quality commenters and supporters with you. And I think that's important is build your team. And with that, Beverly, final thought.
Final thought. Well, first, I want to thank everyone for being here and for contributing. And even if you haven't put anything into the chat, that's wonderful. I really thank you for being here. It's all about you. And I hope you have value from this conversation. And for anyone that wants to reach me, I'm reinventimpossible.com, or of course, in my profile. And it's always at 15 minutes. And I have this wonderful podcast, Aging with Purpose and Passion, that's all about stories of women that keep going and growing, because that's what I love. I love stories of powerful people that keep on moving forward. So, Dawn, back to you.
Well, thank you. And thank everybody. And I look forward to seeing everybody again. Tomorrow I'm with Carl, and we're talking about funding if you're interested, and business development. And Thursday I'm with Kelly and with Dave Snell. That'll be a great show. So I appreciate you all. You make this all worth doing and having, and look forward to growing bigger and better together. So with that said, go out, make this a wonderful day.